Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a beautiful 23rd of July, 2021. Coming up this episode of the Crusty Podcast, episode 144. I present to you Dolts. Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh are in the same bed in regards to online censorship in so-called stopping the hate. All that and more come at the show. Please stick around. Oh, listener and viewer discretion is advised. Don't say I didn't warn you. Stay tuned.
Hit it, sweetheart. Because I am hard, you will not like me.
Yes, sir.
There is no racial bigotry here. Here you are all equally worthless.
From Western Canada, this is the Crusty Canuck Podcast, a Canadian veteran's point of view on political, social, economic issues and life. Here's Crusty.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, coming at you from beautiful Wainwright, Alberta. I'm Crusty Canuck, your host. And like I said, listener discretion and viewer discretion is advised. I tend to drop the odd swear word or two. So if you have censored hearing and you don't like what I have to say, well, you don't have to watch the show. Which kind of brings me to the segue of censorship. Again, we've had more issues coming in federal politics. Jagmeet Singh, certain minority groups weighing in, saying there's an overabundance of white supremacy and hatred going on in Canada today. So I guess you can tell in recent events as well, some churches are being burnt in BC, Alberta, parts of Ontario. A couple of churches in Nova Scotia have been vandalized. And, of course, the politicians and powers that be are right there like fat kids and smarties stating that, oh, my God, we have to stop the hatred. Now, I like to remind my audience too that where I was raised, how I was raised. And I've said this numerous times before in the podcast, ladies and gentlemen, that I was raised in a household where my parents taught me the fundamentals of treating people like people. I was not told to hate people from this origin or that origin, or from this group or from that ethnic group or from that ethnic group or this party here or this party there. I was raised in a household where my parents instilled the values in me. You judge people based on their actions and how they treat others. Okay, then you formulate a conclusion when you try to figure out why people have been cruel or why people are abusive, why people use drugs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I'm guilty, like everybody else. When you take things at face value, you grow up that way. You learn how to differentiate from the two. Now, as a Canadian and as a veteran, as a husband, as an uncle, as a laborer, as a truther, as a patriot, as a taxpayer, whatever abbreviation and a name I want to give myself, I have never treated anybody of a visible minority with any disrespect unless I witness them doing something disrespectful. Okay. And this past week, I've had some few interesting emails from individuals that have told me again to recognize my privilege and to recognize my background and realize that I'm a colonizer and all this shit. So this is one thing I'm going to say to those lot out there. Blow it out your ass. Okay? Okay? Blow it out your butt. When you get people in charge, like Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh and all the Rachel Notleys out there and Janice Irwins and people totaling the whole racial divide, they are creating the racial divide. Okay. Now you've heard me go on and on about Bill C-10 and C-36, especially my last episode where I got a couple of key articles from Western Standard and Spencer Fernando in regards to how they are approaching this whole online hate thing. Okay. Now I'll say again, it is a very, very broad term of what hatred is. Okay. Nowhere ever on this show or other podcasts and other commentators that I've listened to has anybody ever said they hate a certain group of people. Okay. I have yet to listen to any kind of podcast or any kind of commentary out there where said individual, doesn't matter if they're male or female or whether they're gay or straight, has written or said something as heinous as I hate this group because, or I hate that group because, or I hate this gender or this ideology because. I've heard a lot of people dismiss a lot of ideologies, i.e. communism, i.e. socialism, i.e. this proletariat trend that's hitting our university campuses and college campuses, North America wide, and in some cases in Britain and in Europe alike. Okay. But I have yet to hear any podcast from anybody who has pinpointed one race or one side of the human race against each other, other than what I've seen in federal politics, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. I have seen more division promoted from our prime minister and the likes of Jagmeet Singh and Elizabeth May, okay, and Rachel Notley, and in some cases, some conservative politicians too, trying to win favor for whatever showboat or wherever wagon train's coming in based on the trend of today. Okay. Now, there are people in this country that have privilege. There are people that are born into wealth. I get that. There are people that have better opportunities because of where they live or because of who they know. Okay. And that dynamic is nothing new. I've seen that shit in high school. I saw that shit when I was working before the military. I was working 2 jobs, paying rent and going to school before I joined the service. So I saw that dynamic in my workplace. I saw that dynamic where I went to school, and I saw that dynamic in the services too, based on who you know and who you blow, right? So for any of these politicians to sit there and constantly weigh in and try to promote more of this anti-online hate or this anti-hate rhetoric has really, really got to give their heads a shake too. And what gets me too is that when I look at a guy like Jagmeet Singh, he's a hell of a lot more educated than Justin Trudeau. He's an actual attorney. I think he's a defense attorney too, if I'm not mistaken. Anyhow, ladies and gentlemen, I'll leave links in the description for you guys to follow, so to base my conversation on. And a lot of this is off the top of my head too there, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. When I do every episode, I formulate what I'm going to talk about. I write a few notes, make sure I got my facts and figures together, and I just speak. That's the thing. That's the fundamental right we have in this country, to express yourself. And based on the last episode from that Corporal Statham who said C-36 is a great thing, guess what, Bucky? I am allowed to express myself. Freedom of expression is still in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And no matter how you dress it up or what you say or what you do here, don't offer us a poop sandwich and call it a fucking submarine.
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
Anyway, carrying on, ladies and gentlemen, if you like and hear what you see, please click like, subscribe, and share this all around. You can also find me on other social media platforms, such as Rumble, Brighton, and Wimkin, too. I'm working on my Gab account, getting that sorted out, as well as my Odyssey account, too. So if you like and hear what you see, please click like, subscribe, and share this all around, all social media platforms. Help us independent guys get our words out there so you, the viewers, you, the listeners, have options. That's what it is. That's what freedom is. Options to choose, to think for yourself, to formulate your own decision, to live your life your way, and to do anything you want to do without hitting people taking their stuff. Shit simple, right, ladies and gentlemen? All right, carrying on again with Mr. Jagmeet Singh's Infinite Wisdom. Now, there's a couple of articles I will post in my description, and I'll paraphrase a lot of it too. I'm not going to take Spencer's words or Western Standard Line's words and just regurgitate. This is my point of view, and I agree with what they have to say on this too. Okay. Hatred is a very, very broad term. And I hate to keep dwelling in this, ironically enough. Okay. But I hate it when it's minus 50. Okay. I hate it. I hated that heat streak that we had earlier too. Okay. A lot of that reminded me of being overseas, the constant heat, the smell of dust, the smell of crap, the smell of death. I didn't like it, but I drank some water, made my P's and Q's, didn't overexert myself in the heat. You know, try to stay cool, hydrated, using common sense. And that's just a part of life, okay? I like to say again that comfort is not a human right. You, as an individual, have to make yourself comfortable. It's not up to the government to do that for you, okay? And why is that dynamic so freaking hard for the so-called voter base to understand, okay? Every time I hear Justin speak in regards to Islamophobia and we can't be hateful, he's right. Okay, as much as I hate to disagree with the man, he's right. We can't be Islamophobic. But then again, I'm not seeing him really take a hard stand, too, on all the churches that have been vandalized and burned as well. I'm not seeing him take a real hard stand on some of the anti-Semitism that's been going on in this country for a very long time. What was his stand when Anna Marie Paul was being chastised by the Green Party? Now, we don't know all the facts and figures yet. I did an episode on her. I called her a recipient of the volar vortex of bullshit because of her stance on the race issue, not because of her stance as a leader, because she pulled the race card out saying she was persecuted because she was black. I don't buy that for one effing minute, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe she's a terrible person to work for. Okay. But now the Green Party wants to sue her, and she's not paying attention to it anyway. It's just a bunch of political farble garb, just garbage, you know, marbles in your mouth, Zarbalzaus, that kind of crap. But I'm so sick and tired of these so-called elected officials trying to take a stand for something, and one way or the other, they're getting it up sideways or they're mixing it up. Okay. I've criticized Jagmeet Singh before. Now, he made a point in one of his press conferences earlier that the military needs the equipment that, you know, the military needs. I get that because I was a soldier. I've seen how the procurement process works, and really it's a real shit show, ladies and gentlemen. But to make a long story short, he is all for this whole C-36 mandate where you can persecute and prosecute somebody if they say something hateful. And yet what is deemed as hateful? Okay. I've said in my show numerous times how I hate minus 50, how I hate taxes, how I hate when it's like 35 Celsius and up. That's fucking hot, but we can endure it. We can persevere. Okay. And with all the wildfires that have been going on in BC, parts of Alberta and Saskatchewan and now Manitoba. Okay. Oh, it's climate change. It's climate change. All the more reasons for us to go green and to take more money from the Canadian taxpayer to promote some kind of green virtue. Okay. You're taking a natural disaster and trying to capitalize off it. Just like how Jagmeet Singh capitalized off that poor family in London, Ontario that was run down by that moron. Now, nobody knows exactly what this individual's motives were. They didn't find any hate speech categories on his Facebook pages or his social media. Okay. Because his family and friends around him knew him to be a kind of a quiet individual. Now, whatever monsters were eating in his head at the time, what he did was wrong. We can all agree on that. Anyone being mowed down by a psychopath, it's wrong. Okay. But let's reflect on that moment too, where how all parties sat there and hovered over that situation. From Jagmeet Singh to Prime Minister Trudeau, to Aaron O'Toole, to Doug Ford, talking about the heinous and hate crimes. I mean, all this stuff going around. And again, if you're going to promote the DIE model, okay, diversity, inclusion, and equality, not equity. Equity is something you have to earn as an individual. Equality, okay? Why is there still so much favoritism to one or two different ideologies? Okay. It's not a crime to disagree with an imam preaching his gospel on a Friday. Just like it's not a crime to disagree with a pastor on a Sunday or a rabbi on a Saturday. That's not a crime. That is not a crime. I myself, I've said numerous times here in the show, ladies and gentlemen, I am not a religious man. Okay. I was given that insight as a child so my parents could raise me to think for myself. What is out there? What kind of spiritual plateau do we have out there? Okay. Now, the religion I do have, and I will call it a religion because it's kind of an ideology. It's kind of an awakening. It's things that I discovered on my own, and I keep that very private to myself. Okay. Certain aspects of life, what I've seen, what I've done, how I've seen the good of humanity, and how I've seen the bad of humanity, and what I've personally seen in nature as we speak today too. So there's a lot of things I keep to myself when it comes to understanding life and all that good stuff. And I've had people in my life that have given me some great guidance, and I've had people in life that give me some terrible guidance. It's up to me, the individual, to differentiate from the two and to figure out for myself. And somewhere in our history, we have forgotten that. We have forgotten that because the past 6 years has proven that there's still a base of people out there that rely and hang on the government's every effing word.
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
And as I say again, ladies and gentlemen, if you like and hear what you see, please click like, subscribe, and share this all around all of your social media platforms. Like I say, I'm on Rumble, Brighton, and Wimpkin too. Just look up for Crusty Canuck on those following, and you will get some great videos and great content for me. And if you like and hear what you see too, and you don't want to be bothered with a lot of these bigger companies, you can also check me out on Supercast too, a Canadian-based company helping out young podcasters and all podcasters of all shapes and sizes. For $5 a month, you can get all my audio episodes, censorship free. You know, we'll see how C36 might roll. And please give it a shot today. You know, let's get the word out there. Help independent podcasters as myself and others to get the word out, just so you as a listener and viewer and consumer can decide for yourself, ladies and gentlemen. And please take advantage of the 10% discount I have at my shop at customizedgirl.com. It's valid until the 31st of July. At 10% off. Use the code ZZSS. Get 10% off t-shirts, mugs, hats, stickers, buttons. I have some other items like flasks and swimsuits for the ladies too. And there's even some tank tops and shorts there for everybody, unisex stuff. So I'm very inclusive with my shop, ladies and gentlemen. So please check that out at customizedgirl.com. Look up for Crusty Canuck and use the code ZZSS to get 10% off, valid between now and the 31st of July. So you got about a good 6.5, 7 days there to get some Crusty Canuck swagger. Enjoy the rest of your summer with some Crusty Canuck t-shirts. And a few of those items, I give donations to the Veterans Association Food Bank in Calgary and Edmonton too. I haven't made enough money yet to give them a healthy donation, but time will tell, and I will for sure. So please take advantage of that right now. You're not only helping me out, but you're helping some vets out too with some extra foodstuffs and other perks. So keep that in mind. And like I say, if you like and hear what you see, please click like, subscribe, and comment. Please comment around. Share this all over your social media platforms, whatever page you're on, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, carrying on again, too, with more of the Dolts. So we got two people in political power right now, the NDP and Justin Trudeau. Of course, the healthy opposition, the way our parliamentary system works. Jagmeet Singh constantly harping on this whole hatred thing. Hatred. Oh, we got to stop online hatred. Right. And it's still a broad term, ladies and gentlemen. You know, to any individual that wants to type, I don't like this group of people because, and then promote it out on a vast array, then you penalize that individual for doing that. Because we do have hate crime laws in this country. They've been in effect since 1970. Okay. When you try to incite any kind of ritualistic murder or incite any kind of organized hatred rally against one group of people or any politician for that matter, it is illegal. It is illegal. And I've had comments given to me over the past couple of years since doing this podcast, how you're a dirty white man. You should just die already. Well, I guess according to Jagmeet Singh, that'd be a hate crime, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be a prosecution of hatred because I'm a white male? Oh, but then again, I guess, you know, according to these people, I'm privileged somehow. You know, everything you see that I do here, it was just given to me at random. No, I didn't have to work for this microphone. Didn't have to work for my soundboard. Didn't have to work for the titles and everything I put up here. Didn't have to work for the items of clothing that I'm wearing, to the materials in my /office/studio here. No. Everything was just handed to me because I was born with a certain type of genetic code, right? Wrong. Okay. Now, I grew up with people from lots of walks of life, some European, some Eastern European, some Black, some Asian, some East Indian. And I worked with and worked for a lot of people of different backgrounds. So when someone says to me that Canada is a racist country, I just tell them, prove it. Now, there are some First Nations issues that we have to resolve. I agree. There has been issues when it comes to the First Nations that have to be fucking dealt with promptly, because I am a firm believer in truth and reconciliation, big time. But even in that statement, we have to find the truth. Okay? So what is the truth behind these church burnings? What is the truth behind this false accusations of hatred and hate speech? Right? If we're going to find the truth and reconcile, we got to find the truth. Now, I've said this before in the show. Okay. I admit I jumped the gun a few times when it came to the mass graves that were found at certain schools in Kamloops and Saskatchewan, respectively. Okay. But let's get their forensic teams out there, dig up the remains, and find out the truth. Okay. Are they all First Nation graves? Are they graves that come from First Nations children? Are they community graves from the settlers, quote unquote, the settlers of that time? Right? What did they die from? Was it typhoid? No. Was it lead poisoning? Was it actual tuberculosis? Was it a mass shooting? Was it a mass execution? We don't know. So let's find out. Let's find the truth. And I'm probably the first one that's going to agree with, let's look at all the treaties and territories and sort it out properly. Okay. But let's also open up the books and see how much money's have been spent here and how much money's been spent there, and see who got rich and see who didn't. Okay. Finding the truth and then the reconciliation. That's the thing. So all the Jagmeet Singhs out there that sit and toot the horn of virtue and, oh my goodness, and hate speech and everything, take a look at what you're promoting. Okay? Take a look at what you're promoting. In the past 6 years, you, my listeners and viewers out there, the Crusty Canuck podcast, ask yourself this: how much racial bigotry and hatred have you seen in your life compared to the past 6 years? Honestly, I didn't go out waving a flag saying that, oh, we should divide this. I didn't go out promoting any kind of dialogue saying we have to divide people. No. This country was built on all walks of life. Okay? It didn't matter if it was the first Coureur de Bois. It didn't matter if it was the Vikings in Newfoundland. It didn't matter if it was the first French. It didn't matter if it was the second English or first Irish or whatever. And the First Nations. Didn't matter if it was the Chinese assisting with the railroads. It didn't matter if it was the Japanese too. What mattered is that we can sit here and look at our history and treat it for what it is. History. Okay? If you're the type of person that figures you can go out and destroy a statue because it represents something heinous of the past, then fine. But you're not going to honor the memory of the fallen by doing it. Okay? If you feel that you have to set fire to a church just to reignite and to beat the dead horse again, you're not helping. Okay. If we're going to sort out this so-called online hate, then stop trying to censor. Stop trying to control. It's that simple. But no, politicians don't want to see it that way, because considering we're getting out of the so-called pandemic issue right now, oh, but we still need control over our people. We still have to encourage fear. To me, that's not leadership, ladies and gentlemen. That's just laziness. Total effing frickin' laziness at its finest. Okay? You want to stop me from doing something, i.e. speak in my mind, you're going to have to try harder. But what is it that you don't like me saying? What is it you don't want this individual saying? What is it you don't want this writer to say? What is it you don't want this journalist to say? What is it you don't want this actor, this singer, this public speaker? What is it you don't want this politician to say? What are you afraid of? Okay. Now, the only reason that I think Jagmeet Singh is promoting this whole anti-hate stuff, okay, is because he wants to keep his job. Because if they do call an election next month, and let's say people start voting in October, I think he's going to be shit out of luck. Because there's a lot of people out there that are getting really, really tired of the whole virtue signaling and riding someone's coattails, right? Trying to look like a big shot. And Jagmeet, Justin, and Mr. O'Toole, I see right through you.
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
Like I say, folks, if you like and hear what you see, please click like, subscribe, and share this all around. You can also find me on Rumble, Brighton, and Wimkin. I add all my videos to those sites too, just to get the word out. I find those 3 social media sites are pretty cool. Yes, they do lean on the conservative side of things, but they're very, very classical liberal too. And I think a lot of people in Ontario and in Quebec forget what the classical liberalism really is. Okay. Now, not to disenfranchise the friends and the fans I have in both provinces, but you've all heard me talk about this before. Now, when I look at the voter base, you know, the whole triangle from Toronto, Ottawa, and Montreal, and every part there within said triangle, okay, I'm seeing more and more relation to comfort and what's easier, right? You know, you're not voting for the person, you're voting for the party, okay? That's where our parliamentary system needs work, where you have to vote for the person that can do the job. Okay. We forget that still. And if the past 6 years have taught us anything, you would think that one government saying they're transparent, and yet look at all the corruption trails that have followed. Where another party says we're here for the workers, yet they'd sooner look after the union than the workers. And then one party says we're going to abolish a certain tax, and then turn around and say, well, we're not going to abolish the tax. We're going to create a savings account. So you got all three status quo parties calling the shots for what? And what would come out of that? So I would assume that those statements and those actions alone, based on the three status quo parties, should give you, I mean, you all out there in cyberland and in computer land, okay, the incentive to vote for a better person that's going to allow you, and you should be allowed, to save your money, to work where you want to do what you want with your life, to love who you want, to be who you want, without having to worry about people getting hit and having their stuff taken. You would think that, but no. You know, this whole fiasco, this year alone, this past year and a half has been such an incentive for the common sense purveyors, I guess you could say, for conventional wisdom to come to surface, right? And look at some of these situations when it comes to people who get vaccinated and not vaccinated, right? You get a lot of this, right? A lot of that. You know, and to my listeners out there, I got a picture of Donald Sutherland not pointing from his classic role in Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1978. So I'll just do that again for you. Right? And that's pretty well sums up the reality of it. When I was working, there were a few customers that were concerned with my stance on vaccinations. Maybe that's why I got let go from the job, because people didn't like my opinion and my words were scary and their comfort was compromised. Oh my goodness. Anyway, carrying on. I think you get my point. Okay. Is it such an issue that you don't want to get a needle put in you? Now, it's worse enough that I smoke cigarettes. I'm guilty of that. Okay. It's worse enough that I take the odd drink once in a while. I don't mind sitting back with my wife watching television, having the odd Ryan Coke or Ryan Ginger, the odd beer, hell, even a glass of wine, and I still make mead on my own time. Okay. So nothing wrong with that. And my wife and I, we've had this discussion about the vaccinations and all that before. And I'm not against anybody who wants to get the jab. Fine, go get a jab. But when you look at any governing body or any kind of employable body trying to bribe you into doing it, oh, well, if you get the needle, we'll give you this. Or if you get the needle, we'll give you a tickle here. If you get the needle, well, we'll give you a cheeseburger. Or if you get the needle, we'll throw in a pot for $1 million, or put your name in here for $100,000. It's like, what kind of infection is hurting people then if the governments have to give you bribes to do it? Right? That's the thing. I could see if it was a strain of Ebola or a strain of typhoid where there's no known vaccination to save you, and people had to get shots to protect themselves from those heinous infections. I can see that. But when the proof has been in the pudding that the whole beer bug is nothing but a respiratory infection that takes its toll on people who already have resting conditions, and yet 98% of us will survive this once they do get it, what's the issue? A lot of celebrities out there have received who had the COVID. Tom Hanks, Bill Maher, the comedian, Aaron O'Toole had the COVID. Donald Trump had the COVID. Boris Johnson had the COVID, right? And this is before they got their shots too. And yet they got over it. So which was it? Was it ivermectin? Was it hydroxychloroquine? If I'm pronouncing it properly, which is it? So how much more fear do we have to instill? And there's still people sitting there, oh, we have to get more people vaccinated because these different strains, the Delta variant, the Alpha variant, the Lambda variant, the Omega variant, the 2 times buckle my shoe variant. Which is it? So it's more fear. So when they call an election, hopefully in August, hopefully soon, we've got to think about all these parameters, ladies and gentlemen, that have come and gone. and what has been promoted the past 6 years, especially to my Canadian listeners out there, to my American listeners, same for you guys too. What is it we're trying to protect here? We can sit here and talk about big business and this interest. That's fine. That's not a new dynamic. But I, for one, I'm getting sick and tired of this racial divide and this division that all three parties, Conservatives, NDP, and Liberals alike, that are promoting. So it's time to look after the little guy, folks. It's time to look after the people that count, i.e., the blue-collar taxpayer out there. And it doesn't matter if they're doctors, doesn't matter if they're nurses or lawyers or farmers or laborers, or they work in the patch or they don't work in the patch. People that work to try to put food on their table to bring light at the end of a dark fucking day. And that's where we have to stand. Doesn't matter color or creed or gender. Okay. Doesn't matter how they identify, quote unquote. What matters is that there's people trying to get along and get ahead to the best of their effing abilities. And we have to promote that with peace, freedom, and security. It's that simple. Which brings me to the point of the episode. Now, I missed the last time, but brings me to the point of the show where I like to promote the
Canadian polar vortex of bullshit.
And with due consideration, of course, the past 12 hours, I've actually really sat and I pondered and I thought, okay, who really deserves the polar vortex of bullshit? The Canadian polar vortex of bullshit. So, with all due respect, ladies and gentlemen, the Canadian polar vortex of bullshit award goes to, wait for it, Mr. Jagmeet Singh. Oh my goodness. Why, you ask? Because he's a coattail follower. He'll rather ride the coattails than stand in his own integrity and his own morals. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Jagmeet Singh has won the Canadian Polar Vortex of Bullshit Award. So thank you once again, Mr. Jagmeet Singh, for earning and carrying the flags of
the Canadian polar vortex of bullshit.
Well done, sir. Well done. Now, and next episode, I will try to get a better candidate. I know I've had him before. I've had Justin on before, Stephen Gobert, and other NDP officials. But there's more buffoonery out there too, ladies and gentlemen. So hang tight. There will be other recipients of the award as I see it. But I just had to give him that because I'm just so disappointed in this man, because he's a defense attorney. He's defended criminals prior to his existence in politics. Okay. But he also fails to realize that Canada has a very diverse mix of intellectuals and people of all classes, regardless of what you see online or not. And he was the first one to sit there and promote this anti-hate speech, and yet promoting hatred with his, uncanny division when it comes to what people can say and do. All right. And if you hire someone to represent you, you hire someone to represent your well-being, your personal politics, and your personal beliefs, then they should promote that. And for this individual and other individuals too, I'm not just going to center him out, to sit there and talk about the so-called hatred and online hate and this bigotry. He even sat in Parliament and said, Canada is one of racism and division. Yet he fails to realize how the hell he got his job. So if this country is so full of hatred and division, sir, why are you working? Interesting, eh? Something to think about. Something to really think about. Perspectives and context, right? When I look at Parliament, I see a very diverse mix of individuals from Asian backgrounds, from East Indian backgrounds, from European backgrounds, from Black backgrounds, right? All walks of life. And for any politician that stands up and says, this country is racist, I think you're full of shit. I would say, sir, that you're the racist and you're the bigot. Okay? Let's get rid of this 1984 attitude and start working in the now. Okay? And I honestly hope, sir, that if they do call an election, that your party is defeated. Okay? Because the NDP brand, to me, is no different than the Liberal brand, as far as I'm concerned. Like I mentioned before, you're not standing up for workers. You'll stand up for unions. You're not standing up for fair housing. You want to promote the green agenda. So it will help the green companies, the so-called green companies, get ahead, right? So instead of promoting natural resources like you should in this country, you're promoting a frickin' utopia. And to me, that's just dumbfounded, and it has nothing to stand on. Really. So your platform sucks. Anyway, carrying on, more of this Dolts, because really, when I look at Justin and Jagmeet, I see two of the same people. And a little bit of Aaron O'Toole, too. I see all three of the status quo. So, ladies and gentlemen, I highly suggest that between now and when the election is called, really, really think about what you want as someone to lead you, as someone who's going to represent your interests. And I've said this before numerous times on my show, too. I'm throwing my hat into the federal politic. I'm going to throw my hat in there, and I'm going to stand up for the Veterans Coalition Party. That's the banner I'm choosing to represent. And we're full of people that come from all walks of life. Some are veterans, some are first responders, some are ex-NDP, some are ex-conservative, some are ex-liberal. And it's a very, very diverse mix of individuals, too. There's French, there's English, there's Asian. There's quite a bit of people from all walks of life in this party. So please check it out, too. I'll leave a link in the description for you guys to click on, and you can read our summaries, and you can read what we stand for and our Constitution, all that good stuff. And you decide, ladies and gentlemen, because we need more choices out there rather than just the three status quo individuals. Okay? Because we've seen how the NDP like to operate in Alberta, and we've seen how the NDP operate in Ontario under Mr. Bob Rae. Mr. Bob Rae, a guy who thinks that liberty is not worth it. Well, right? And this guy's been a career politician for the better part of 40 years, so I don't trust anything that he says to begin with, right? But it just seems just redundant how everyone's hopping on their virtue wagon and the control and the fear wagon. Time to stop the wagon, feed the horses, and maybe get some new livestock. Right? That's my logic. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Crusty Canuck podcast, episode 144, Dolts. They're both on the same page, right? Trying to win favor, trying to divide, trying to incorporate more fear. That's the last thing we need this day and age, is more fear, more division, right? Do what you can to help your neighbors out, all that good stuff. And take the scruples and the morals you were taught as a child and reinforce them as an adult. Okay? I, for one, I don't judge people on the color of their skin, their gender. I judge people on their actions. Okay? And if someone says something rude or something heinous, then you correct that person. Okay? But you don't fire them, you don't chastise them, and you don't destroy their life because you may disagree. We're better than that. And it's time we start showing it. Okay? Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Crusty Canuck on this beautiful 23rd of July, 2021. Stay tuned this Sunday. I will have another edition of Fastball Sunday. Next week, I might be working. I'm doing some contract work for a friend of mine. So I may not be around as much, but I'll keep you posted on the community page and the Facebook page, respectively. And like I say, you can check me out at Rumble. You can check me out Wimkin and Brightian as well, too. But just stay tuned to my updates as they come. We'll have hopefully the 4 panel on this Fastball Sunday. Be talking about more politics and stuff. Please stay tuned for that. And do what you can to help each other out in these trying times. Weather is a bit better today, so I'm going to go outside and do some yard work. I'll do my usual husbandly chores. And just carry on. Keep trucking on, as we should, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, I've been Crusty Canuck. And do what you can to help your friends and loved ones. And give a little extra of your time and effort to people that need it. And like I say, humanity and merit wins the day. Take care, and I'll see you Sunday on the Fastball. Bye for now.
Hit it, sweetheart. Because I am hard, you will not like me. Yes, sir. There is no racial bigotry here. Here you are all equally worthless.
This has been another episode of the Crusty Canuck podcast. Stay sane and thank you for listening. From Western Canada, this is the Crusty Canuck podcast.